Thank you. Thanks, Jess, from behind the scenes for showing the video. Oh, I've got a couple of people saying they're struggling to get the links or sending me WhatsApp messages. I think Barbara and maybe a few others. Jess, if you could, yeah, help out, that would be awesome. And whilst we do that, for those of you who are here, thank you so much and welcome to the first of what is a kind of like a dig deeper into Restless. We're aware that those who know us love us, and we're also aware that people say it's very hard to sum up what Restless Development does in an elevator. So this is our attempt to kind of like give you a bit of behind the scenes, some of what we're sharing. So we're using this moment to kind of share the highlights from our annual report or annual review. We will also make sure that you get a link to it. If anyone wants a physical copy, let us know. We can send one out as well. But this is a kind of little bit behind the scenes. We also, and we're hoping and aiming to do this every 3 months as well. So this is the first. We'd love to hear from you what's working and what else you'd like to hear a bit more of. That would be awesome going forward. So yeah, welcome. And we're going to hear from 3 experts from Restless Development, who I'm going to introduce themselves in a second. And then at the end, we're going to have Q&A. So let us know if you've got any questions. You can plug them into, I think there's a Q&A function as well, and we'll make sure that we got some time at the end. So starting off with introductions. I'm Alex, I'm the co-CEO at Restless. I am the co-CEO with Kate. So we do collective leadership, which you'll hear a little bit more about in a second. I'm going to hand to Maria. If you could introduce yourself, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maria. I'm the Senior Research Manager, and I look forward to this conversation. Thanks, Kate.
Thanks, Maria.
Sorry, Alex.
Everyone gets us mixed up, as you know. Brilliant. Sarah, over to you to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Glad to have you here. I'm Sarah Bafumba, and I work with Restless Development. I'm based in Uganda. I coordinate the Youth Collective. Nice having you here.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And last but not least, Leslie, you can introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Welcome, and it's a pleasure to have you around. My name is Leslie Garura. I'm the Director for Restless Development, Sierra Leone.
Amazing. I am just wondering if we've got enough people, if we need to wait. It looks like people are joining. I know there's been a few issues. No, let's start off. So as I mentioned, this is kind of a review of the best of Restless. I think one of the best things we think we are at Restless is very much how we do things. How we do things is as important as what we do. So we're a values-based organization. And 2 weeks ago, we had our Global Values Day, where we celebrate, I think we've got some lovely pictures coming up from our Values Day from around the world. So that's the UK, which I think was probably the least creative of everyone, celebrating their favorite value. Here we've got Nepal team coming together, Sierra Leone forming a heart. So well done, Leslie, for your crew. Uganda definitely nailed it from getting the height and a heart picture there. Brilliant. Tanzania coming together. And India. And then I think we've got another one, haven't we, in terms of Zambia's Values Day. So for us, values are all about the organization that we are. At the heart of everything that we do is our people, and making sure that all of our people can thrive. So we want everyone to be happy, to be able to do their best work, to have real opportunities to be able to grow as leaders. I think our last volunteer survey showed that 99% of all our volunteers were really proud to volunteer for Restless. All of our staff surveys generally show that, you know, at least 90% are really happy and feel supportive. And yeah, so doing kind of really well in terms of our people. But we try as well to be a power shifting agency. We've got power shifting principles in place, and lots of things about how we do development is different from others. But it's not just about obviously how we do it, it's what we do. And for those who are new to Restless Development, to kind of sum it up, those who like numbers, we're an £8 million organisation or a $10 million organisation that works across 26 countries. And across those 26 countries, we've got about 200 staff members, and our reach is 300,000 young people. So working with 300,000 young leaders. We are all about enabling young people to be able to respond to the biggest challenge in their community, whether that be building a business, whether it's a climate intervention, doing girls' clubs, responding to a crisis. Young people are the ones who are facing it and recognizing that those young people in that community are the best place to be able to respond to it. And we're going to hear some really brilliant examples of that in a second. But if you want to sum up what Restless Development does, and it's very difficult to sum up what we do, is effectively three things. So first is youth leadership, ensuring that every young person is able to grow, have the confidence, the skills, the network, the know-how to be at that critical time in life to really kickstart life. So that really critical time of that youth dynamic where you've got the opportunities. If you get the opportunities, you know that it really changes the course of your life. So 1, youth leadership. 2, impact. So everything we do, all our programs, has a direct impact on the task in hand, whether that be climate adaptation in Bangalore, doing that in partnership with the mayor there, whether that be HIV/AIDS awareness in Zimbabwe, having a lasting impact there, whether that be on Ebola in Sierra Leone, making sure that we've got a direct impact on an issue. And the third one is really strengthening youth civil society. So we want a world where there is strong youth civil society everywhere, where young people have really strong networks and webs of other young people that are able to better respond, that can work in partnership with government, but also work in partnership with other young people across the world. And this youth civil society is not to be taken for granted. It's everywhere, but a lot of people don't see it and invest in it. So for us, we want that to thrive. So those are our kind of, in a nutshell, our three things, our kind of magic sauce. And that last one is why we also have our youth collective. So not only do we have our programs, we have a youth collective of now 4,000 youth organizations, and we want that to grow and to invest and to strengthen that support everywhere. Anyway, enough from me. I'm going to hand over to one of our experts. We're going to start with Maria. So a big part of what we do is youth-led research, really enabling young people to lead on the knowledge that impacts their life. Maria, if you could share some of the highlights of our youth-led research and what we've learned and the impact it's had over the last year.
Thank you so much, Alex. And it's just to say that it's befitting that we started with research, because it is the foundation of everything that we do at Restless Development, right? Our youth-led research approach actually centers the leadership of young people in knowledge production, translation, and sharing. We ensure that they have a greater voice in the programming and advocacy, particularly for things that matter the most to them. And just to say that our vision at Restless Development is to have this research academy where young people can continuously work with us and we work with them throughout their research careers, generating evidence that supports our work, but as well helps them in terms of advocacy. And what have we been doing the past year? We've done so many things. I mean, I can't even begin to think of the research projects that we churned out in 2023. But just highlighting a few of them that really touched me and that influenced a lot of our work. The first one was in Sierra Leone, where we had 10 young people from the Youth Collective collecting information around the gaps and areas of need in education. And this led to the co-design of intervention strategies, which I'm sure Leslie will speak to. The second thing was really in Zambia, Kenya, and Uganda, where we actually had the research around access to sexual and reproductive health and rights services by young people who are out of school. And we did this research. I even traveled to Kenya, and it was really the first time that I went there. And it was in a very rural, so to say, community where we collected the data. And it was amazing to see how much information young people had and to see their potential as researchers. And this information was then used, the information they collected was used to come up with training manuals that are being used currently under the SheSource project in the 3 countries that I've highlighted. And the reality is, in Africa, we face a lot of challenges when it comes to negative sexual and reproductive health outcomes, including, HIV/AIDS, unwanted pregnancies, unsafe abortions. And this is like a pertinent issue for young people in Africa. And it was amazing to be part of a journey which actually led to them having more information and services regarding SRHR. And the report, I guess, that most people spoke about last year was also our State of Youth Civil Society report, Young, Feminist and Fearless, Holding the Line, which really was a stock take of the work that young feminist movements are doing, and also a reminder of what they need from us, right? And what we found was that, young feminist movements are growing, and they're very big on community development, but there are big issues or problems when it comes to funding and trust from donors. The issue of bureaucratic barriers to accessing that funding, what impact means, it's really unclear, and sometimes it really doesn't speak to what it means for the young people. Issues around them not feeling as if their voices are amplified enough. Issues around the social media and how it's a double-edged sword, right? It can be a good platform for them to share information, also a platform that perpetuates a lot of harassment and abuse against them. So we found a lot of things in this report. And what it did, and this is, for me, this was like really big. What it did was this report influenced our own interventions. So if you have seen over the past year, we've really started working a lot around young feminist mobilizing within our youth collective. And we've tried to mobilize resources for our young feminists. So this really came from our State of Youth Civil Society report and the findings that we got. And also, our programming around technology facilitated gender-based violence. It was an eye-opener to see to what extent women are actually facing a lot of violence online, and that has helped shape our strategy when it comes to that. And of course, it inspired us to center care within our own agency, right? It's not enough to talk about it to everyone outside, but it's very important for us to make changes within Restless Development. So we really thought around care and how it's important for the work that we do. But as a closer, Alex, I'm often asked why our methodology works, why the youth-led research methodology. And my response is always that young people conduct research every day of their lives, right? Whether to select careers, to decide on which schools they want to attend, or even who to date, they actually conduct research. And why not harness their power, their ability to research so that we are able to create programs and advocacy that really means something to them. And they're constantly producing knowledge, regardless of their geolocation, gender, sexual orientation, or social stratification. And so the question is, so why not trust them with research on the things that matter most to them? Thanks, Alex.
I love that. Thank you. Yeah, brilliant ending. And for those who don't know, every year we do the State of Youthful Society. So that last one on feminist movements was incredibly powerful. And yes, we all at Restless all have every single person has a well-being goal as well. But also really off the back of it, like how do really kind of strengthen those movements. But this year we're doing some research focused on also what does it take to fund Youthful Society, which Maria is leading on as well. So watch out for that coming up. But next, we're going to hear from Sarah on our work. One of our big areas of work is on sexual health rights and gender. This makes up about half of all the work that we do, if not more. It's historically been all of the bread and butter of our work. We started almost 40 years ago on HIV/AIDS programs and awareness raising, always having young people lead that work, because at the end of the day, who are you most likely to take advice and from? Is it likely to be your peers or an old teacher or a government official when it comes to your own personal life? I think we all know who you're most likely to listen to and why our programs have a really solid impact. So Sarah, over to you to share some of the highlights and learnings from the last year.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Alex. And once again, I'm speaking from Uganda, so I'll be spotlighting our SRHR work in Uganda. In Uganda, SRHR, or the sexual reproductive health and rights of young people, is in a worrying state. And Restless Development has always stood up boldly to champion to see that young people have access to their to services, but information, but also the rights are, like protective, but also enhancing for young people. So in Uganda, we are implementing a project called We Lead. We Lead is a project that aims to create an everlasting, that really aims to see that young women who are marginalized and disappropriately discriminated from communities have access to services, but also rights, especially around their sexual reproductive health. So the project, one of the key milestones that we've achieved in Uganda is around the creation of a movement, or let me call them movements, across 9 countries. We have 9 movements in countries like Uganda, Kenya, Mozambique, Honduras, Niger, name it. And how have we been able to create these movements? One, we appreciated that it's very important to create ownership within these movements, within their countries, for them to be able to take on, but also advocate for the well-being of young women from marginalized settings, but also in their diversity. In diversity, I mean, we're working with young people who are living with HIV, young women who have different forms of impairment, young women who have experienced gender-based violence, but also the LGBTQI community, because we appreciate that in many of the countries that we are working in, the young women, actually, especially those ones from the LGBTQI community, do not have, it's not really safe because of the policies, because of some of the cultural norms and like attachments towards who a young person is and how they should be. So for us, gender discussions are very core. So we've gone ahead to strengthen local ownership within our countries through formation of these networks, formation of these movements. So like I mentioned, we have 9 movements, and these 9 movements comprise of over 100 organizations. And so we've worked with them tirelessly to see that the rights holders within these movements, within these organizations, can speak out, can challenge policies. How have we done this? One, through data, through research. Like Maria said, Restless research is core to us. So we've trained the rights holders to conduct research and to challenge some of the existing policies, laws, and norms that hinder the achievement or the enjoyment of rights and services for young women from marginalized groups. So this research, they've used it. One, it has increased their credibility, but also it has enabled them to challenge, to engage with duty bearers, but also service providers on how best young people can be protected, but also their services enhanced at all levels. The other thing that I can mention about how we've created movements around sexual reproductive health and rights, we've given the power to the movements, to the rights holders within the different countries, to be able to design, to innovate, but also invest in priorities that speak to them, because we understand and appreciate that working or SRHR issues are contextual in nature. So that's why we went as local as possible, as contextual as possible, and we've engaged all the different players, see that they understand, appreciate, but also work with the rights holder groups in their diversity, but also at a national level. Then we've given the just to mention that the We Lead project, 50% of the grant goes to the community of action communities, or we would call them the movements. And this 50% is used by the rights holders to design how best they want to engage, how best, which kind of initiatives, which kind of strategies speak to them. So for us, that has been a learning, that giving ownership, ensuring that the rights holders design what speaks and what makes sense to them. And really this has enabled us as the We Lead to be able to have stronger networks, but also to have more policies challenged in the long run. One thing that we've also really strengthened is, yes, much as we are talking about local ownership and engagement from the host organization to the host organization to the community of action, we also link all these networks to global spaces, to global platforms, what we're calling the Youth Collective. So we've had some of the rights holders be a part of the International World AIDS Day, but also the AIDS conference, sorry to say, but also some of them have been part of the Commission on the Status of Women, where they've gone ahead to share, to advocate for their rights at the global level. But again, those discussions don't end at the global level. They get back into their countries and discuss what is coming in from global, but what they want to see in their country. Alex, I also beg to spotlight a little bit on our work in West Nile in Uganda. So we are working with we are working within Uganda with refugees. Uganda as a country, we have really an open policy to immigrants, to refugees. So we welcome as many refugees as possible. But again, this poses a challenge, to one, the host community, but also the refugees who are coming in. So we are working in a refugee camp, which is called, you would call it the Rhino Camp refugee settlement. It's based in West Nile, and we work with young people to see that their sexual reproductive health and rights, but also economic empowerment is enhanced. And we work mainly with young people, young women who are out of school. That is really like our area of, but also our reach. So we've through our work, we've created an enabling environment for the refugees to be able to enjoy, but also to have access to sexual reproductive health and rights, as well as services. How? We appreciate that communities have really deeply embedded, deeply appreciated cultural norms and practices that hinder young women and that hinder young people to have access to services. So we've gone ahead to hold different community dialogues to engage. We've gone ahead to have intergenerational dialogues between the elderly and the young people to discuss what is best for young people. We've gone ahead to also form community level youth advisory structures. And in these structures, we have these leaders who engage with the adult leaders who engage with the different parties to see that young people's health services, young people's health, sexual reproductive health services are provided at their best. The other thing that we've done is around strengthening systems, because we appreciate that, yes, you might have an enabling environment in terms of the service or the facility itself, but are the systems enabling, are the systems supporting the young women to go ahead and access the services or even have information? So we've enhanced this through strengthening the capacity of district health management teams. These ones are very core to coordinate, to monitor the services being provided within the districts, but also at the national level. But also we've gone ahead to form and then build the capacity of the technical working group to ensure effective coordination of the gender response adolescent SRHR services within the refugee settings, within the Rhino Camp refugee settlements. We've also gone ahead to train village health teams. So Uganda as a country, we have like different structures in terms of the health care provision. So at every village, which of course Rhino Camp has also very many villages, we have village health team, which are of course recognized by government. So we've trained these, at these village health team providers to be able, one, to understand the needs of the young people, to understand their priorities, but also how to support them as they seek the services and information. So we have now over 1,000 over the last year, we reached 1,289 community members. These ones received SRHR awareness, but also they are reporting there's also an increase in access to SRHR services within the Rhino camp, but also elsewhere we are working in Uganda. So we cherish in our work, we appreciate what we are doing, and just to inform you that the We Lead program will be coming to an end next year, December. But for us, that is just the beginning. We've formed these movements, and these movements are, are doing their work. So this is the beginning, and we just hope, we pray that yes, they get more connected from just the 9 countries to across. But of course, this again calls for more funding to see that yes, we're not just working the 9 countries, but spreading our work in as more countries as possible. Yes, thank you very much. Back to you, Alex.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I mean, there's so much there to celebrate. I think what you described really, really well, which is another one, it's like the best of Restless, is the building bridges. I do talk about Restless in terms of we build connections and build bridges, not only across different places, but with young people in a community, with a health centre or with a government, but also what you described in terms of the intergeneration. So it's never just about a very small program and just that reach, but really making sure that we are able to make that connection for a bigger change. And those We Lead young leaders and CHISOs are incredible. I think we've got quite a lot of blogs up as well from some of these rights holders. They are amazing, and I definitely encourage, and we can share some of those stories as well. So thank you so much. And actually, just to encourage if anyone who has questions for either Sarah or Maria, please do capture them. You can either put them in the chat, and then we'll have a chance at the end as well to ask those questions of the panel. So next we're going to move over to Sierra Leone. We have had an incredible journey in Sierra Leone with some real recent wins and things to celebrate. Leslie, over to you.
Thanks, Al. Hi again to everyone. We'll talk about what we've done in Sierra Leone. But I think I'll start by giving you a bit of a background, which kind of builds up and culminates in where we are in terms of our work within Restless Development Sierra Leone. So we officially came to Sierra Leone in 2005 at the invitation of the then Minister of Youth Affairs. Having been exposed to some of the work that we were doing in other countries in terms of youth empowerment and youth engagement. As you would be aware, Sierra Leone had been through a protracted civil war, which ended in 2002. And some of the main protagonists in that war were young people who felt disenfranchised, who felt disengaged, who felt unappreciated, and as a result, were to some of the activities that happened within the war. Some of them were involved, as protagonists. Some of them were involved as victims. And so there was that real need to ensure that if we want peace to be sustained, there was a need to engage young people. And after hearing of our model, that's when, we were invited in. And indeed, we came in and quickly set up a youth empowerment program. The youth empowerment program mainly looked at number one, how do we give these young people the life skills that they need, the self-confidence, the self-esteem, the leadership skills that allow them to function as normal human beings within their communities. But on top of that as well, we looked at issues to do with sexual reproductive health and rights, as well as health in general, just to ensure that we have a wealthy young population. We also supported them with some business skills training, as well as linkages with vocational skills training, such that they'll be able to earn, decent livelihoods. But most importantly, we supported them with the leadership and advocacy skills for them to take part in the decision-making processes that take place within their communities. As I mentioned before, a huge part of the challenges that resulted in the war was that lack of engagement with young people. So we worked with structures structures right down at the village level to ensure that young people are part of those communities and are able to actively engage and say what they think and provide solutions and identify challenges and barriers to ensure that any development intervention that is developed takes into consideration what those young people would have said. And as a result, we basically developed a very mobilized youth population. And, subsequently, Sierra Leone kind of had a period of sound economic growth and peace, which, was a result of that. But then, unfortunately, in 2014, Ebola struck, and some of those gains automatically were lost. But because we had this critical mass of young people who were already mobilized, we were able to just go back to our alumni base and mobilize the young people with information on how best to counter Ebola. So we were in every village, in every district in Sierra Leone, and we supported government in its nationwide program to help communities understand Ebola, because Ebola touched a lot on the norms that people would do. So we wanted to have community volunteers who are based in the community to support communities to develop and identify their own challenges and develop their own solutions to the challenges that they faced. And this culminated in the development of what we now call the community-led approach, which is basically an approach that allows communities to identify the challenges, map out solutions, look for allies, and map a way out in terms of finding those solutions. And we were able to help government to, end the Ebola pandemic. And as if, it didn't end there, we then had COVID also coming in. And we were able to, again, dwell on that methodology and mobilize our young people again across the country and use the same methodology to help people gain awareness about COVID, how to prevent it, the referral pathways, and just to ensure that we're able to do away with the COVID. So I think one of the key challenges that emanated from all these disturbances, which is actually part of the restless development priority areas, was education. You would know that in a civil war situation, schools had to be closed. And then after that period of tranquility, Ebola came. And because of the nature of Ebola, again, schools had to be closed. As if that was not enough, COVID came in again and schools had to be closed. Now, in a fragile economy and country like Sierra Leone, education is not easily accessible. Now, when you even bring in all these other challenges, it becomes even worse, especially for the young girl who is from a marginalized community in the rural areas. And so this is a challenge that we as Restless Development felt we needed to work on. And so I will now move on to what was then profiled in the annual report, which was a project that it was a pilot looking at how we can find solutions to education challenges that young people are facing in the different rural areas that are in Sierra Leone. So we got this funding from the People's Postcode Trust, and the main idea was to allow young people to develop their own solutions to the challenges that they had identified. Maria alluded to the research that was done along those lines. The young people went out, did a youth-led research to identify the education challenges that they were facing. And now we had these nascent youth civil society organizations designing programs that would respond to some of these key challenges that had been identified. And I'm happy to say that we were able to fund youth CSOs in the different areas. And briefly, I'll just talk to some of the work that they did. So one of the most obvious one is, trying to get vulnerable out of school children to get back to school. Government has implemented a free quality education program, which is great and allows free education for everyone. But unfortunately, there are other school-related needs that some vulnerable children cannot access. And as a result, they drop out of school quickly. So the project worked with local resources and local allies to see how communities can come up with safety nets that allow those children to re-enroll in school and be retained in the school setting. Another project looked at mainly with people living with disability who are always left behind, especially in our context, in the rural context, where organizations, people, government are not really capacitated to deal with people with disabilities. As a result, they're just neglected. But we found some of those youth organizations actually identifying facilities that can provide vocational training skills to those people and ensuring that they are supported with the startup kits that they need and linking them with established business people within that vocational skill to be able to sustain their businesses. The last one, the second from last one, also looked at menstrual health, which is a key challenge, especially for the young rural girls. During their menses, most of them don't go to school naturally because they don't have any means of menstrual hygiene. They don't have access to products, and so they don't go to school, which in turn has its other challenges. And what we've seen is programs that have come in have just been donating pads mainly, which in itself is not sustainable. But these young people came up with a way of using recycled material to make homemade reusable menstrual products. And not only did they do that, they then cascaded the training to the different young people within that district. So what it meant now is, or what it means now is, we have communities which have the capacity to sew their own menstrual pads, which are reusable, and therefore ensuring that girls are kept in school even during the period that they are doing their menses. But now I'll move to the most, which we feel is one of the most innovative ones, which had to do with the challenge of power. Electricity penetration in Sierra Leone is below 30%. And so you'll find that most of the rural areas, most if not all, have no access to electricity. And the use of charcoal and these other sources of light come with their challenges. So what it means for a child, especially again the girl child, in the context that we have and in our culture, there are a lot of things that then come into play. So number one, there are a lot of household chores that are normally assigned to the girl child. And because that girl child comes from school late, she gets home, it gets dark, she fails to do those chores at home, which means she has then to do them early in the morning the following day before she goes to school, which comes with its challenges because if the chores are many, she goes to school tired. That's point one. Point two, they get a lot of homework that is assigned to them. Then, because again, they get to home when it's dark, they cannot do any homework. It therefore means, again, they need to do it early in the morning before they go to school, or they don't do it at all, which basically means the education ecosystem is not convenient. And so what these guys came up with, again, using local resources and recycled material, they developed what they called a solar backpack. And this solar backpack is basically a bag that is made from recycled material, and then it is a torch that is connected to a solar panel. And so when the school children have the backpack on their backs, on their backs, and the panel is exposed to the sun, it's actually charging its solar lamp. So what it then means is when it's dark, they can then use that light. The one that you are seeing in the picture there, when fully charged, gives you up to 9 hours of light, which means the school children can do a lot of things beyond 6, 7 when it gets dark. And this is not just about their schoolwork, it's also just about the quality of life at home. And they even went as far to add in an alarm with a system that is linked to the parent's phone, because some of the children walk considerable distances to school. There's also the challenge of them being sexually abused along the way. These guys also came up with an alarm, which allows the girls or the school children to press if they are faced with any challenge, and notification is made to their parents' phone. So it also brings in the safety aspect. And through this project, we were able to support over 180 children. But most importantly, we also cascaded that training to those communities to help them also being able to produce these things, which then, produce these bags, which then will be obviously cheaper and more sustainable for them in the long run. So that's just basically the culmination of that. But I think I needed to also mention that the kind of funding that we got for this particular project was flexi funding, which allowed the organizations to design their own projects, to map out their own solutions, to tell us what they felt success for them would be. And it was so empowering that we saw divergent solutions to divergent challenges. And I think it's in the power of youth leadership. It's very empowering, because generally it's very difficult to trust young people in the normal status quo. People think they might be irresponsible, they might be misuse of funds. But what we saw was groups of focused young people who were able to produce real impact, and we were able to develop a learning paper with which we share with people, just to show what changes we've made. And we are hoping to be able to spread the project to other areas. So that's mainly what came out. But I would not have done justice to Sierra Leone again, Kate, Alex, if you allow me, if I don't talk of some of the successes, some of the key successes that we have got recently. Like I mentioned, because of all these challenges in Sierra Leone, and because Sierra Leone is mainly a conservative kind of community, very religious, very traditional. There are a lot of barriers and factors that affect the girl child. So we have a challenge. We had a challenge of child marriages. We have a lot of girls who are married off before they get to the legal age. We have a lot of girls getting married off because of financial challenges within their houses. We have a lot of girls planning to get married as well, because of lack of the requisite sexual rights information that they require. We have structures that are forced by structural norms, systemic norms that allow this to persist. And so from 2016, we've been deliberately working to end child marriage within Sierra Leone. This we have been doing through working with girls that are in school, ensuring that they are retained in school, ensuring that they are able to be promoted from one grade to the next, and then also ensuring that they are able to transition either into tertiary education or at least into finding some kind of decent, sustainable livelihoods. And we've been working with out-of-school girls as well to ensure that they are aware of their rights. They are aware of their referral pathways. Should they need any help? Should they need any services? Should they need any counseling? And I'm happy to say that 3 weeks ago, guided by some of the advocacy work that then came as a result of this other work that we were doing, the president then signed into law the Child Marriages Act. And we feel very happy because this provides a legal framework for us to be able to implement some of those gender empowerment programs that we've been implementing. And we feel, just like what Sarah said, the work is not yet done. We celebrate this, but we also run the risk of losing the momentum simply because we have something in law. We need then to be able to ensure that policy development is not implementation. Is it being implemented? Are people aware of those policies? Are the girls themselves aware? Are the families aware? Do we have structures in the communities to ensure that they are looking out for these things? And so we hope to be able to secure funding as well that takes us along that way. Otherwise, thank you very much. This is our Sierra Leone presentation. Back to you, Alex.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Leslie. I mean, it's such I know it's been a really challenging few years. You've, painted the picture, but so many wins. I mean, there's just so much to be optimistic about. And we are delighted about the recent change in law. But as you said, that kind of work continues to make sure that that all actually means a change in lives as well. So that's towards the end of our presentations. We have opening the floor to questions. We've got a couple of kind of quite specific ones, I think, in the questions. But before, I was going to ask one question to each of the panelists, and that is, what's keeping you optimistic? What's keeping you optimistic with regards to the future around youth leadership? Maria, I'm going to come to you first.
Thank you so much, Alex. So for me, it's just the realization that young people are challenging dominant narratives around SRHR, gender, democracy and voice, around climate change, and they're doing a lot. They're not waiting to be invited to the table, but they're actually bringing their table and chair to the negotiating space and ensuring that their voices are heard. So that gives me a lot of hope. And I know that we're in safe hands if they continue on this trajectory. Thanks, Alex.
Amazing, Maria. Sarah, over to you. What's bringing you hope?
Yeah, thank you. What gives me hope is the youth power. The fact that young people are rising and they appreciate that they have the power in them. So the onus is on us to tap into that power, to appreciate that there's youth leadership and we should let the young people lead. So for me, that gives me hope.
Thank you. And Leslie, what's giving you hope? You're on mute.
I think my hope is similar to everyone else. I think the statistics speak for themselves. We have more young people than ever before. And what we've seen is the zeal, we've seen the passion, we've seen the possibilities, we've seen the potential that young people have. And so as long as we have a generation of young people, there is always hope. Because I think what is then critical is how we harness that potential, that zeal, that energy, that passion, and channel it correctly. And I think young people in themselves know what they want. We are there to support. And so the fact that we still have a lot of young people that are upcoming, it gives me hope, because I know the solutions don't lie with us. The challenges are becoming divergent, they're becoming many, they're becoming complicated, but the solutions also come with the potential that our young people have.
Amazing. Thank you. And I don't think you could put it better. So I'm not even gonna, I'm not even going to attempt. I'll wrap up in the end in a minute. But we have some quite specific questions from Busi about the Sierra Leone programs, Leslie. So on the menstrual hygiene products, she's curious about the recycled material and how that's made hygienic, as well as how they manage to be cleaned for the reusable pads. So as well as another one on the solar backpack, I'm curious about the cost and wondering if they've been able to help generate income as well. And with those, I think they were doing in partnership as well with others that could help with some of that. But if you could, respond to those questions, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. In terms of hygiene, so the training came with a kit that then allows you to do the hygiene aspect. However, it doesn't then come with the long term, because also the big idea is, how do we use this skill to be able to then cascade the training elsewhere and then be selling. So the kit itself comes with soap, washing material that allows it to be hygienic. But it is only as a kit that can only provide a certain number of pads. Beyond that, because of the funding challenges, there was no further material provided. In terms of the solar backpack would be between 25 to 30 US dollars. That's correct as at 6 months ago, because that's the last time we encountered the organization that was working on this. And so there's definitely discussions on how to make it commercial. We are also supporting the group itself to tap into other funding opportunities that are there. So, for example, in fact, it's funny that you spoke about the menstrual and the menstrual health and the backpack, because those have actually received further funding from other donors to be able to enhance their projects. But with the solar backpack, we are still supporting him to see how he can come up with a commercial enterprise that allows him to continue. But that's work in progress. We've written a number of proposals out, but we are yet to get any feedback as of now. But the plan is there, although the passion around it was, how do we help young people without access to light in the rural areas to have that access?
Amazing. Thank you, Leslie. I mean, I think that what's giving me hope and optimism is two things. One is definitely our people at Restless, our young leaders, but definitely all of our staff. I think here, amazing examples of our incredible team, but also the partnerships that, we've all talked about, different people that we've been working with and different local partners, government partners, individuals. And I think that's very much our kind of outward facing. We never seem to be short of opportunities and people that can work with us to solve some of these challenges as well. So yeah, really optimistic for the year ahead. Which brings us to an end of our call. So thank you very much for all of you taking the time. Really appreciate you, staying on. Please don't shy away from asking any questions, any feedback. We'll make sure you've got a link both to the annual report, to the annual review, as well as anyone who wasn't there for the first couple of minutes. We started with a video. It's only 1.5 minutes long. We'll also send you the link to that, and really hope that you enjoy it. And yeah, thank you very much, team. Jess from behind the scenes, Maria, Sarah, Leslie, for taking the time. Thanks, and bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.